Hey everyone, Stephen Glicker here from Roll for Combat, and I have the actual sales numbers for the 2024 Player's Handbook, and I think you're going to be, well, stunned at how incredibly low they are. But let's get to the numbers because I'm going to break this all down to you into nitty gritty. First up, let you know that I actually have access to sales numbers. I subscribe to a couple services that give me, well, actual numbers, and I've been waiting for last week's numbers to come out. They just came out, so I have all the numbers. I'm going to go through all of this. I'm going to break it all out. But I was very curious about this because a couple things happened. First of all, a lot of people were writing to me over the weekend saying they couldn't find the book anywhere they looked, that everywhere they went, well, the book wasn't on sale. And I thought that was very curious. So I spent the weekend going to as many stores as I could. Now, I live in New York. I actually live right outside Manhattan. And the thing is that usually people want to put things in Manhattan or in New York, and that is because it's one of the most densely populated locations on Earth. It just is simple math is that if you have a product selling in New York, the number of people who are going to actually see that product is, well, you're going to see more people just by, area, square footage, all of that. So usually everyone, whenever they try to sell something, they always put it in the most densely populated areas first, and then they spread out from there. So although, yes, I'm only looking at a small sample, a sample size of New York right outside Manhattan is actually a pretty good one. I went to as many Barnes and Nobles as I could find. No one had the book. I went to Target. They didn't have the book. I went to Walmart. They didn't have the book. I went everywhere. I went to as many stores as I can find that actually sell books, and absolutely none of them had the book. None. Now, game stores had it. Actually, some of them had a lot of them. And I thought this was the weirdest thing because I was like, okay, why does no one have the book? Especially Barnes and Noble. Like Barnes and Noble doesn't even have the book. So that was weird. Now, they had lots of D&D books, don't get me wrong. They just didn't have this one. They didn't have this book. They didn't have this book either. They didn't have the special, oops, it's upside down. Special edition book. They didn't have either. Oh, it's not upside down. Okay, they didn't have either one of these books. So I was looking everywhere for this thing. All right, that was kind of weird. So then I was like, okay, I want to see what happens. Then WoTC put out a press release, and the press release says follows. 2024 Player's Handbook becomes the fastest selling Dungeons and Dragons product ever. They said here, Wizards of the Coast announced that the 2024 Player's Handbook has become the fastest selling Dungeons and Dragons product ever. It passed Tasha's Cauldron of Everything to make it the biggest product launch in the game's 50-year history. To meet demand, WoTC has printed 3 times the number of 2024 Player's Handbooks than the 2014 edition. And they basically, and then they have some quotes. Now, as someone who works in, PR, media, that sort of stuff, I looked at this press release very carefully, and they don't say that, oh, the hardcover was the best-selling book. They say it's the best-selling book, and they say they printed a whole bunch. They do all this thing to allude that it has to do with the actual hardcover book. I think they're including everything in their sales. I'm actually pretty positive. I'm going to tell you why in a second, because when you see the numbers, you're going to be stunned. Basically, they have to be including all their online sales, D&D Beyond sales. They're going to be including everything, and I mean absolutely everything. So they gave us a point of reference. They said it passed Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Okay, well, good news. I have what Tasha's sold the first week. I looked it up. Tasha's from the week of December 13th, 2020 to December 19th, 2020 sold. This is kind of amazing. It sold 133,100 copies. So, by the way, the product I use that gives me these numbers, it includes Amazon, includes big box stores. I believe it's only US only. So all these numbers, basically, I'm using these numbers against each other, so they're accurate. So it's probably a little bit higher than that if you include like comic book stores and flags and things like that. Anyhow, the point is it sold approximately 133,000 copies. Okay, that's a lot. That's a huge number, by the way. So that's what it sold. By the way, lifetime, Tasha's has sold 383,162 copies to date, according to the research I have. So I was very curious. Once I heard that a couple days ago. I was like, okay, I don't know how this book has sold more than 133,000 copies, considering I can't find it anywhere, everywhere I look. So here we go. I got the actual numbers. Just to give you an idea, from the month, from, let's see, from September 15th to September 21st. Are you ready? The 2014, version of the Player's Handbook sold 587 copies that week, last week, basically. That's it, 587 copies. The 2024 Player's Handbook sold 3,773 copies. That's it. So, according to my numbers, it sold 3,773,000 copies. That's not 133,000 copies. I don't know. That doesn't sound about right. Now, I don't believe that WoTC is lying to us. I believe they actually did sell it. I also believe that their numbers are including every version of the Player's Handbook, including digital. Which means if they're including all the digital, by the way, I was curious. I went to the WoTC website. I actually went to D&D, and then they're like, they're advertising all the place saying, buy this Player's Handbook. And the very first thing that comes up is to buy it online, to buy it on D&D Beyond. Like that's what it defaults to. So they want you to buy it online. They want you to use it on D&D Beyond, and it's cheaper too.
Listen up, Dungeon Masters. Your players are falling asleep at the table. What? Your wizard is going to use catapult to throw rocks at a monster again? How about instead of that, the wizard covers their body in rocks and hurls themselves? Now you're thinking like a badass using Battlezoo Bestiary, Elemental Storm. Filled with over 150 innovative elemental monsters, new elemental spells, and the monster parts system, allowing you to craft weapons, armor, and magic items from the creatures you slay, infusing elemental magic into them with 20 unique elements. Sure, there's classics like air, earth, fire, and water, but there's even weirder elements like music, space, and time. Doctor Who, Doctor You.
Wait, I'm a player, not a dungeon master. Why should I give a
Well, Yahtzee, how about a brand new character archetype, the Monster Hunter? Climb on creatures, target specific body parts, and weaken them. Or just grab a small monster and use their attacks against the big one.
Ooh, you sold me at big ones.
Best of all, this archetype can fit along any class. Fighter Monster Hunter? Duh. Monk Monster Hunter? Sure. Wizard Monster Hunter? Well, it'll set the difficulty up, but go right ahead. Elemental Storm is filled with over 250 pages packed with stunning illustrations, detailed rules on the monster parts system, and so much more for your Pathfinder 2e and D&D 5th edition games. Click on the link below or head on over to kickstarter.rollforcombat.com to secure your copy of Battlezoo Bestiary Elemental Storm today, and turn your table from slow and crunchy to fast and furious.
They also did a couple of other interesting things, is that they combined the Player's Handbooks, the 2014 and the 24, as one product listing on Amazon. So if you search for it, it comes up. That, by the way, helps it in the ranking because they combine both. So it comes up higher because you're combining two. And then you select when you want to buy it, which version you want. So I was able to figure it out because, by the way, so each book has this thing called the ISBN number. It's a little number back here. Every book has its own number. So although you can kind of hide the sales in Amazon by doing this, like combination and hiding things, you can't do it from the methods I have because I can look up any book using the ISBN number and see the exact sales. So just by the way, I was curious, the box set, the D&D box set that's out now, that sold last week 1,024 copies. So the box set is still actually outselling the Player's Handbook 2-1. And that was shocking to say the least. I did not expect this to sell that poorly. Just to give you an idea, the Player's Handbook to date has sold 1,726,678 copies. Now, that's not quite as accurate as it should be because that includes all the way back to 2014. Numbers weren't, they didn't have the same numbers that they had now. By the way, Player's Handbook sold when it first came out in 2014. The first week it came out, it sold 22,090 copies. So, again, these numbers, I didn't think they included Amazon back then. The things are a little different back then, so it's not quite as accurate. So I know I'm throwing out a lot of numbers, so I'm just giving you the overall. Here we go. Here's the overall numbers. Tasha's Supposedly the best-selling book ever, best-selling product ever, 133,100 copies. That's what it sold the first week. The Player's Handbook 2014 sold 22,000 copies its first week. And according to the research I have, the 2024 version sold 3,773 copies. And that's it. Now, again, that doesn't include flags, it doesn't include hobby stores, things like that, but I don't think hobby stores are going to make up the 130,000 copy difference. It just isn't. Which is really weird because they do mention that they printed more versions, 3 times the number. So let's do some math there. 3 times. So if they sold 22,000 of the original version, that means they probably printed up at least, I don't know, I'm going to say 30,000 copies. All right, 30,000. That's a good number. So I'll say they at least printed up 30,000 copies of the Player's Handbook. So that means they probably printed at least 90 to 100,000 copies of this book. Where's it being sold? Okay, I mean, I think they're going to sell 100,000 copies over time. You know, they can print this up, and this can be a first printing, and they can keep this first printing forever. And, you know, they can just keep it in the warehouse and sell it over the next 5 years. There's nothing to prevent them from doing that. And I'm not even sure what version or what printing the 2014 Player's Handbook, which I have right here, is up to. This is first printing. So I don't even know what version this is. I'd be curious if anyone knows how many versions this has gone through. But congratulations, Wizard. I think you did what you've been trying to do. We've been saying it all along that you're trying to get everyone to go online. You're trying to get everyone to use D&D Beyond. And from what I can tell, if these numbers are accurate, they did. That means that over 130 plus thousand people are using the online version of the Player's Handbook, and a very small fraction, we're talking like 10% or less, is actually using a physical book. And that's exactly what they wanted, because they make a heck of a lot more money selling these digital copies than they do the physical books, I'll tell you. So, good job. And I guess I'll continue to monitor these numbers and see where they fall out. And by the way, if any of you out there were able to find the book in your local Barnes & Nobles or Targets or any big box stores, let me know, because I'd be curious to see if anyone can find it. I can't find it. I looked everywhere. So anyhow, with that, I will see all of you guys later.